Hi there, it's Wise here, bringing you once again some wise words. How are you guys? No, seriously, how are you? Me, I'm feeling tremendous. And I would also like to say happy morning, good evening, or good afternoon, whatever time it is that you're watching this. So, I wanted to talk to you guys today a little bit about something that is near and dear to me, which is dun 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 dun, inspiration. And now I know what people are going to think. Inspiration. What's this guy talking about? Inspiration. I'm inspired. The reason I wanted to talk about inspiration is because I believe a lot of people take inspiration for granted, or they're not inspired in their day to day life. I talk to a lot of people that say, oh, I'm unmotivated to do something, or I get bored easily with this task. And I just tell them, no, you just need to get inspired. You just have to have inspiration about whatever it is that you're doing. So I guess how I should broach the subject of inspiration is first telling you what helps me, what helps Umar be inspired. So let me tell you a little bit about my background first before I can tell you about what inspires me. I grew up very athletic but chubby. I was a semi active child, but I really, really enjoyed my sweets, my hamburgers, my hot dogs. I was a member of the Clean Plate Club for years. I enjoyed my vegetables, but I didn't intake enough of them as I should have. Tons and tons of things that added to me being a pretty chubby kid. Even though I was fairly active in the martial arts and things like that, I still found myself struggling at ages of like 9, 10, 11 years old with my weight, where other kids were fairly athletic, that we were all playing basketball together or playing football together or soccer or whatever it might have been. I was always slightly chubbier than the other kids. So, as an adult, I now take my health very, very seriously. The things that I put into my body, the exercise regimens that I have, and that's all indicative to the inspiration that I draw from how I knew it used to be, how unpleased I felt with myself for having a body that wasn't athletic or mobile. So that's just one form of inspiration. Another thing that inspires me, a lot of people ask me, well, why do you always seem to be trying to better yourself? Always, every day, whether it's reading a new book or trying a new exercise that's going to help my mental clarity, uh, trying to start a YouTube channel, whatever it is, people are always asking me where I draw my inspiration from. Well, a lot of thing, or one thing that a lot of my acquaintances don't know, but my close friends do, is that I went through the foster care system when I was a teenager. It was a very difficult and tumultuous time for me, and during that time, I always spoke to myself in a positive manner, telling myself that these things aren't my fault. What's going on right now, I have no control over, but the things that I do have control over, such as my internal condition, I need to. I was always my own best friend. That's one thing I preach to everyone. You must be your own best friend, your own biggest fan, so to speak, the head cheerleader on your squad. So, but the things that really, really, really got thrown in my face being in the foster care was that foster care children usually don't grow up to be anything. They don't. They have something at the time, I believe it was a 27% chance of graduating high school with a diploma, and maybe a 40% chance of graduating high school with a GED, and to even go to college, the percentages were lower than that. I think somewhere in the range of like 20%, and graduating from college at the time when I went was something way even lower, something like maybe even 5 to 10%, and all that compound with the fact that I was African American. I try not to talk about race too much, but the statistics do show that African American foster children, African Americans in general, tend to get incarcerated more. I believe it's 1 out of 5, something like 20% of African American males between the ages of 13 and 21 will spend at least 1 week in jail or be incarcerated or have at least one run in with the law. So I always tried to keep cognizant of things like that, especially growing up in New York City, actually Brooklyn, New York, through the late 1980s and the 1990s. It was a very, very tumultuous time. So that, like I said, that compounded with the fact that I was in the foster care system, which will usually put people into a recidivist system, such as the prison system or the legal system, where you're constantly battle with small legal battles that are just indicative to your environment. And so all of those things, knowing all those things, doing intense research about all of those things, really, really, really made me appreciate the chances that I was given. So every chance that I had, whether it was in school to do well at academics or do well at sports or any of the extracurriculars, whether it was the debate team or the yearbook team, all of those things, I took them very seriously, but also had fun with them. My inspiration came from the fact that not a lot of people really expected much out of me, and that was something that drove me to always want to do better for myself. So that's just one of the things that I said that inspires me. So why am I telling you guys this story? Well, in essence, I would want you to look into yourself and find something to draw inspiration off of. I think that's my personal opinion. The best place to start is to always start with yourself. If you don't start with yourself, you can always draw inspiration from athletes or celebrity figures or poet laureates, anybody that you want to draw inspiration from, family members, people in your community, people in your religious faith, if you have a religious faith, any of those things. But to draw inspiration, for me, I believe you need to start with yourself, because all of us have had a trial, a tribulation, something that we've gotten over that at the time we didn't think that we could. But through perseverance, through believing in ourselves, we were able to get through that hard time or that tough situation. So for me, to look inside and draw inspiration off of one of those past events is the most pure experience that you can draw from, because you went through it personally. Now, it's not to say that you can't draw great inspiration from other people. There's inspirational speakers, there are inspirational motivators, people, not just orators, but people that do inspirational things. Like when you see somebody, like maybe your favorite athlete, be injured but then come back out to the field of play to complete the competition, that might inspire you when you're in a tough situation or a moment of pain or vulnerability, to go through with it and to have this belief in yourself that you can accomplish any task. So like I said, it's not that you can't draw inspiration from outside sources, but for me, to look inside of oneself and think about any time that I may have went through something hard, difficult, that at the time, like I said, I didn't see myself getting through, you can draw inspiration from that. And then from there, you can do tons of things from like drawing inspiration. I tend to draw inspiration from nature a lot of times, especially when I do a lot of my other things. I'm like I've mentioned before, I'm very into yoga, so sometimes I find myself hiking in the woods, and hey, this rock looks terrific for doing some meditation, or maybe a few downward dogs or vinyasas. So I find myself doing that in nature. Other people are hiking by and are like, hey, that looks like fun. Sometimes they stop and say it looks like fun. Other times they hike by like, I didn't know that guy. I didn't know people came out here just to do yoga. So it could be a very, very interesting journey, finding out things that inspire you. You can be inspired from children. You can be inspired, like I said a moment ago, from nature. You can be inspired from just anyone or anything around you. Your neighbor could put up a very nice sculpture in the front yard, and that might inspire you to want to take up sculpting. Or you might go to the museum and see a very beautiful piece of artwork, and that might inspire you to want to go home and take up art, or maybe try watercolors. Same thing about hearing a great poet may make you want to try your own hand at writing a haiku or another form of poetry like a limerick or something like that. So there's tons of places to draw inspiration off of. But one thing I wanted to tell you with inspiration is it's one of the breaths of life. Without inspiration behind anything that you're doing, you'll never be able to really cultivate a great craft. Whether, like I said a moment ago, you want to be a great artist or a great orator, anything like that, without passion for it, without being able to have inspiration for that subject, task, or whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, then you're going to do it half-heartedly at best. A lot of people, like I mentioned earlier, going to work uninspired. And well, that's because it's just a job. If you have a career and you're uninspired, then we have something to talk about. A lot of people aren't inspired by their job, especially if you have a job like at a fast food industry or in sales or retail or anything like that. That can be very uninspiring because you're not really helping yourself or other people. Maybe you are providing goods or services, but are you really, really changing that person for the better? Are you changing yourself for the better? And that's where a lot of people feel unfulfilled. They get this empty feeling inside, and that's where aspiration or inspiration needs to come in. If you have no inspiration, that's where that empty feeling comes from. But let's say you do have a career, or you found your life calling, where maybe you have a job, but on the side you instruct yoga, or on the side you teach taekwondo, or on the side you go out and you have a great hobby of scuba diving or skydiving, anything like that. If you have something that brings that inspiration into you, then you could use that inspiration for all other aspects of life. But adversely, like I was saying, if you have a career and you're uninspired, then maybe you're in the wrong career, because usually people in careers, they choose something that inspires them, something that they're inspired by, and they follow that path. A lot of people say, well, that's not going to work because I'm not going to make the money that I need to make following that type of life choice. Well, one thing that I firmly believe in, and I've seen in a lot of written text, and I'll bring you guys more on this later, but if you have a passion for something, you're inspired by something, and you know that you can get up every day with a great heart full of energy and a mind clear about what you want to do, then the money will come. Money is just, it's a form of energy. It's currency. It comes and it goes. But it's all indicative to the energy that you put into it. A lot of people are taught that money is bad, or it's bad to have a lot of money. That isn't true. It's basically energy or compensation for time and effort that you put into something. But if you have the inspiration for whatever it is that you're doing, and you truly, truly love it, then the money will come. It's not an object of how much money I'm going to make, because I'll tell you this much, my friend. I've never heard a eulogy or seen a tombstone anywhere that said, I wish that I made more money and spent more time in the office. No, they always talk about how they wish they spent more time with their family and loved ones and doing things that they loved, doing things that inspired them. So I hope that this video inspired you to do something that you love, or at least helped you take a look at what inspires you, or gave you an idea on how to inspire yourself. So guys, as always, infinite love, peace, and wisdom.